Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Journalism and New Media Studies, SOJMS, Bachelor of Arts, Journalism and Digital Media, Bajdam, Semester I, BNM 0 to 1 Introduction to Journalism and Digital Media, Block to Journalism and Media in the Digital Age, Unit to Models of Communication. Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks. Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Journalism and New Media Studies, SOJMS, Bachelor of Arts, Journalism and Digital Media, Bajdam, Semester I, BNM 0 to 1 Introduction to Journalism and Digital Media, Block 1 Introduction to Media and Communication, Unit to Models of Communication. 2.0 Introduction. In this unit, we will study various models of communication. With their help, we will try to understand the communication process with multiple steps and stages. We will start with basic communication models and then move to the more complex ones. Along with them, we will uncover various concepts of noise, feedback, context, shared experience, and equilibrium. We will further discuss how these concepts affect and impact the communication process and the effectiveness of a message. Towards the end of the unit, we will critique the perspective adopted by these models and explore other ways of understanding the process of communication from different angles. 2.1 Learning Outcomes. After completing this model, you should be able to times explain why we need models to understand communication, describe the basic and more complex models, times discuss how these models are relevant in the contemporary social and media environment, times enumerate the basic elements that are an essential requirement, SMCR, for communication and understand the interrelationship between these different elements, times explain how these models can be applied to interpersonal communication, and which of these models is helpful to understand mass communication better, and times understand and critique the notion of transmission perspective in communication models. 2.2 Communication Models. Communication is a complex process involving many stages, many participants, and the formation and consumption of a message. Communication studies use communication models to understand and discuss the process of communication. Now the question arises, why communication models? Models visualize the process of communication. In other words, we can understand the communication process by representing it in a graphic form. Models are thus abstractions of larger and more complex processes and ideas of communication. They should be seen as maps that guide us to understand human and technology-driven communication better. Some models are more detailed than others, while others are more basic and rudimentary. As communication studies as a paradigm evolved, so did the attempts at learning and depicting the process. According to Harold Laswell, 1948, a convenient way to describe an act of communication is to answer these questions: times who, times says what, times in which channel to whom, times with what effect. If we focus on this model carefully, we can observe that the emphasis has been placed on the effect of communication on the receiver. The whole process is understood as a means of creating an effect on the receiver by transmitting some information. The result judges its quality and whether the message was accepted favorably. Let us look at some other variations of transmission models. 2.3 Shannon and Weaver's mathematical model. Our journey began at the Bell Telephone Laboratories, where Shannon and Weaver worked on the mathematical communication model. They were not social science researchers but engineers working on the process of communication. Let us look at this model as given in Figure 1. In this linear model of communication, Shannon and Weaver have tried to understand and describe the communication process by taking cues from the telephone system. Their main concern is looking for the most efficient way to use a communication channel to transmit the maximum amount of information from the source to the destination. In this communication process, The message that originates with the source is transformed into a signal by the transmitter. This signal is then sent across to the receiver through the channel and finally reaches the destination. In a telephone system, the channel is the telephone cable, the signal is the electric current, and the transmitter and receiver are the telephone instruments. Because of how this model has been conceptualized, it is also known as the engineering communication model. According to John Fiske, Shannon and Weaver's mathematical understanding of communication is based on the premise that accuracy and efficiency are the key concerns for effective communication. In doing so, Shannon and Weaver assumed that efficient communication could best convey desired meaning or enable semantic accuracy. The most important aspect of Shannon and Weaver's model is the concept of noise, which can hinder the process of effective communication. Noise is something that gets added to the signal between its transmission and reception that is not intended by the source. Fiske, 1982. In other words, noise is an unwanted signal that gets added and hinders the transmission of the intended message, making decoding the message much harder. This hindrance could be in the form of physical noise, like a booming microphone, a noisy ceiling fan, a blaring loudspeaker, or just static in the telephone connection. But there are other ways in which we can conceptualize noise. Semantic noise would occur even when the transmission of the message is accurate and efficient but cannot transmit the intended meaning. Can you think of real-world examples where someone says something eloquently but is misread by the intended audience? Shannon and Weaver also argued that there could be three levels of problems in this suggested model of communication. Times the technical problem, where there is a problem in the channel or decoding. This will affect the accuracy of the message. For example, if the pages of this book are torn or the ink is illegible, you may not understand what is written. Times the semantic problem, there is a discrepancy in the meaning the receiver understands. For example, reading and comprehending this text would be impossible if you do not understand English. Times the effectivity problem, there is a question of the message being received and comprehended but still ineffective. Many social messages fail to work as they do not bring about the intended change in the audience's behavior. Going by the same analogy again, if you find this text boring, you may not learn anything, which is the intended result of this book. 2.4 Osgood and Sachram's model. Charles E. Osgood, 1954, developed a model in which the sender and the receiver enter into a dynamic relationship with each other in the communication process. According to them, the process is equally important and bilateral instead of unilateral. In this model, the source or the sender encodes a message decoded and interpreted by the receiver. But the process does not end here. Now, it is the receiver's turn to encode a message and send it to the source. This message is now decoded and interpreted by the source. The strength of this model is that it looks at communication as a far more dynamic and interactive process in which both the source and receiver, A and B, participate by responding to each other and picking up cues from each other. Wilbur Sachram, 1971, further elaborated on the idea of the processual nature of communication. He added another significant element to the communication process: feedback. So when a converses with B, the following chain of events occurs: A encodes a message and sends it through a channel. B receives the message, decodes it and responds by sending his feedback. This feedback can be in the form of a gesture, a word, or even a long sentence. The sender will be able to understand the effectiveness of his message with the help of feedback, which would lead to better communication. The feedback element makes Sachram's model reciprocal and highly interactive. Sachram states it is misleading to think the communication process starts somewhere and ends somewhere. It is really continuous. Satram also emphasized that the source begins with pictures in his head, but these cannot be transmitted unless encoded into signs for transmission. So, the first stage is encoding the message in words or other symbols. Once encoded, the message is free of the sender. In other words, the sender has no control over the message. Even before we consider the effectiveness of the message, we need to consider whether the message will bring out the desired meaning. For this, the message has to be decoded by the receiver. According to Wilbur Satram, the critical question is whether the picture in the head of the receiver will bear any remembrance of that in the head of the sender. In other words, the receiver and the sender have to be in tune with each other. This is similar to the need for a radio transmitter and receiver to be on the same frequency for transmitting the signal. In this model, Satram introduces the concept of the field of experience, which is vital for communication to occur. These fields are nothing but peripheries of a person's total human experience. If both the source and receiver are in tune with each other, then the signal will be within the circles of accumulated experience of the two individuals. In such a case, the communication process will be able to deliver the intended message. Let us go back to the example of using the word lift instead of the word elevator. The sender will encode the message according to her experience. So communication will be difficult if the word lift is used and the receiver is unfamiliar with it in the context in which the sender uses it. The problem here is that the lift is not part of the receiver's field of experience. She is more used to the word elevator. Thus, while selecting words, signs or symbols to encode a message, the sender keeps the receiver's experience in mind. This example can also be used to understand the concept of semantic noise. 2.5 Berlow's model. As Berlow suggested, this model lists 4 essential elements involved in the communication process. The source, S, is the originator of the message, M, which needs a channel, C, for it to reach the receiver, R. Again, the communication process is seen as a linear chain of events geared towards transmitting a message to the receiver. The source, the originator of the entire communication process, drafts a message according to his skills and opinions, which is transmitted through a channel to reach out to the receiver. Fig. 7. A source encodes a message for a channel to a receiver who decodes the message. SMCR model. Look at the screen. In Berlow's model, the source encodes the message according to his communication skills, knowledge, attitude, and social and cultural values. The message itself has been understood with the help of various categories like its content, treatment, and structure. The channel can be as diverse as hearing, touching, seeing, tasting, and smelling. Finally, the receiver decodes the message according to his/her knowledge, communication skills, and attitudes. 2.6 GRBNER's model. George Gerbner's model brings another dimension to our understanding of communication. That is the dimension of perception and meaning. By doing so, Gerbner clearly distinguishes between reality and the message that shapes this reality. According to Gerbner, the communication process has two dimensions, the perceptual and the communicating or means and control dimension. The process in this model begins with an eventee, something in external reality, perceived as M. M can be a human or a machine such as a camera. MS, perception of E results in E1. This is the perceptual dimension at the start of the process. The relationship between E and E1 involves selection. M cannot possibly perceive the whole complexity of E. If M is a machine, this selection is determined by its engineering or physical capabilities. But if M is human, the selection is made through interaction and negotiation. In other words, an individual tries to match the external stimuli with internal thought patterns to arrive at some perception of the event. This process involves the social and cultural experience of the individual. M brings into the process of perception his own experience and point of view. This also means that different people will perceive the event differently. In the second stage in this model, which is the vertical dimension, E1 turns into a signal or say signal about the event. This is in the form of a message or a statement about the event, or E say includes S, the form and shape of the message, as well as E, or the content of the message. In this vertical dimension, selecting the medium or channel of communication is important. This selection process required them to have some control over the media or channels of communication. Just as E1 can never be a complete response to E, similarly, say, can never be a complete and comprehensive response to E1. There are bound to be some distortions or exclusions. In the third stage, we return to the horizontal dimension again. In this, the receiver or M2 is making a perception of say. Once again, the receiver, M2, perceives say through interaction and negotiation. M2 brings to say his own needs and his social and cultural experience and finds meaning in the message accordingly to turn it into say 1. What is important about Gerbner's model is that reality and our perception of reality are distinct. That is why there is a difference between the event and the perceptive one. Similarly, there is a difference between the message say and how the receiver perceives it as say 1. 2.7 Newcomb's model. Newcomb's model is shaped like a triangle, and its importance lies in how it introduces us to communication's role in society. For Newcomb, this role is to maintain equilibrium in society. In this model, A and B are the communicator and receiver. They may be individuals or organizations or a government and its people. X is part of their social environment. ABX thus becomes a system, which means its internal relations are interdependent. In this ABX system, if A changes, B and X will also change. If A changes his relationship to X, B will have to change its relationship with X or A. The ABX system will be in equilibrium only if A and B have similar attitudes towards X. The more important a place X has in A and B's social environment, the more urgent their need to communicate and share a common orientation towards X will be. For example, if A is the government, B is an organization representing financial institutions, and X is the economy. During the economic recession, A and B will have to communicate more with each other because it concerns them both in a significant way. Similarly, during the war, more communication and sharing of information are required between A, the government, and B, the people over X, which is the war. What is important about Newcomb's model is its concern with those social situations which trigger the need for more communication. Secondly, Newcomb's model concerns broader orientations and attitudes towards X in the ABX system. Between A and B, communication plays a crucial role in giving information about our 2.8 West Levi and MacLean's model. This model, designed by Westley and MacLean in 1957, is important for our understanding of mass media like newspapers, radio, and television. This model is also understood as extending Newcomb's model by introducing C as the new element in the ABX system. C acts as a filtering mechanism that decides what and how to communicate. Here is what the model looks like. X is equal to source of information, A is equal to sender, C is equal to gatekeeper, B is equal to audience, F is equal to feedback. In this model, A is the sender and B is the receiver or the audience. A relies on various sources, X, for information. Thus, X, or the social environment, is closer to A than to B in this model. The arrows are now one way, as in earlier, linear models. What is significant about this model is the diverse nature of X, accessed by A. A reporter writes her story through her interactions with X at various levels, depicted as X1, X2, X3, X4, and so on. Interestingly, X can be interpreted in its plurality, representing several voices and events, thus providing several options for selection and negotiation to A. Thus, mass media are extending the social environment, X, to be accessed by A, which B needs to relate to. But B has no direct contact with X. C acts as the gatekeeper and decides which information A has provided should ultimately reach the audience. We can take the example of a newspaper reporter, A, who sends a story to her editor, C, to get published in the newspaper. The editor may use the story in a modified manner or take it as it is. It is also possible that the editor will not use the story at all. So, the editor or C, as shown in Figure 10, acts as a filter. After going through this filtering process, the message reaches B or the audience. B is very much at the mercy of both A and C. Even in terms of feedback, C acts as a filtering mechanism. The audience here is seen as dependent on mass media for information. While the means to satisfy this need for information is severely restricted through the process of selection as carried out by A and the process of gatekeeping carried out by C, according to Dennis McQuail, Westley and MacLean's model is important since it asserts that mass communicators do not originate messages or communication, rather they relay to a potential audience their account, news, of a selection of events occurring in the environment. This selection is made based on assessing what the audience might find interesting. Activity 2. A reporter working for a daily newspaper is sent to a temple town where several people have lost their lives in a stampede at the temple site. Apply the gatekeeping model and show how the news will reach the reader in this situation, considering all the actors involved as envisaged in this model. Even though this model is helpful for mass media like newspapers, it would work equally well for television and the internet or can be applied to film festivals, cultural festivals and diverse media forms like the animation industry. In the case of a film festival, a festival coordinator may receive several films to be considered for screening at a film festival. The curators of the festivals will have to undergo a process of selection and elimination to select a certain number of films that can be shown at the festival. They may set up the guidelines for the selection criteria according to the theme and the festival's focus. Westley and MacLean's model can thus be applied to various media technologies and networks. However, the model is not concerned with the criteria for selection and elimination. It does not tell us on what grounds the gatekeeping process takes place, but it makes us aware of the role of gatekeepers in mass media. 2.9 Jacobson's model. This model draws from both linear and triangular models. Jacobson was a linguist and, therefore, framed his model on questions of meaning and the internal structure of a message. The importance of this lies in the fact that it moves far beyond the transmission perspective in communication. The model gives importance to the context and the codes involved in communication. The model enumerates 6 factors of communication with 6 corresponding functions. The 1. Address or sends a 2. Message to the 3. Addressee. The message requires a 4. Context to be effective, which performs the referential function. The other factor is the 5. Contact, which keeps the physical and psychological connections between the addresser and the addressee open. The last element is the 6. Code shared by the addresser and the addressee. Each of these elements performs an important corresponding function in verbal communication. Code metalingual, it points towards the genre or the nature of The interaction, addressee conative, it persuades or influences the addressee according to the desired goal. According to this model, each factor is essential for communication, but not all the 6 functions must be equally important. A communication event may give importance to only one or more functions. For example, if the poetic function is given importance, other functions, such as the referential function, may become dormant. In other cases, the emotive function may take precedence over the other functions. 2.10 A critique of the transmission perspective. We began this unit by studying Harold Laswell's model, which attempts to answer who says what to whom, through what channel, and with what effect. This model and most other models discussed above fall within the dominant paradigm, which is concerned with the technical efficiency of communication in transmitting or transporting information from the source to the destination. Thus, the two ends of this process, the source and the destination, determine that linearity will be embedded in how we approach communication. This is known as the transmission perspective of the communication models. According to Dennis McQuail, the message is determined by the source in the transmission-driven models. One of the problems with the transmission perspective is that it looks at communication in an instrumental way to bind it in a cause and effect format. Several of the models discussed come under the rubric of transmission perspective, which is geared towards a one-dimensional message flow from the sender to the receiver. James Carey, a communication scholar, introduced the ritual or expressive model of communication that depends on shared meanings and culture. The purpose of communication, as conceptualized in the ritual perspective, is not to bring out an effect or to persuade someone but to bring out the pleasures of a shared culture. Communication is not seen as a practical function but as a symbolic process whereby reality is produced, maintained, repaired, and transformed. The purpose of communication is not for control but for the representation of shared beliefs. In the ritual model, importance is given to the performative quality of communication rather than its efficiency. Therefore, meanings may be ambiguous and latent, drawing from a timeless shared culture everyone knows. In this context, it is interesting to see how advertisements ultimately use the ritual communication model to persuade viewers to buy their products. For example, a familiar image in a commercial for cooking oil is a mother frying puris for her children. This image draws upon the idea of purity and authenticity through the notion of mother's love, thus reinforcing the idea of women as nurturers. So, the commercial is not just about selling cooking oil but equally about creating familiar symbolic associations that are part of a shared culture. Transmission models usually suspect the audience to be passive, and the meanings exist only waiting to be decoded correctly. It severely underestimates the dynamic act of interpretation. It also shifts the power fulcrum in favor of the sender. Alternative models are described as constructivist models. They acknowledge that all parties involved can generate and deconstruct meanings rather than rely on senders and receivers. However, scholars in this field reject producing scaled diagrams or structuring the communication process. Instead, they opine that attaching meaning to a set of symbols is situated in the socio-cultural and political context. 2.11 Let us sum up. This unit aims to help us better understand the communication process with the help of models several scholars have devised. Using models as a tool, we can map the communication process in a graphic form. This helps us better understand the flow of communication. Each model gives importance to different elements that are essential for communication. We notice that as we go along, the models become more and more complex, leading us to ask different kinds of questions. This leads us towards more research and further need for models. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with next chapter.